Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 1977, my father left a country of bell-bottoms, platform shoes, free speech, technological advances that rivaled that of America and Western democracy. He left a country and a system of capitalism that allowed families to achieve their own version of the American dream. Major cities were constructing buildings, not unlike the growth that we find right here in the Peach State. 2 short years later, in 1979, my father's family fled a country that was being overthrown by a radical Islamic regime. One that was killing their political enemies, that didn't allow women the right to drive, that didn't allow my grandmother to inherit the family property. They weren't allowed to participate in a free and open society. Their economy was strangled by radical Islamists, and it brought the country to a standstill. It's a sad day when we learn that there are those that would elevate a man who was both directly and indirectly responsible for the deaths of hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans. And thousands, if not tens of thousands, of Iranians. No matter your quibble with the methodology, carrying water for Soleimani, a radical Islamic terrorist, is carrying water for an Iranian mullah and their militant regime. For 41 long years, the regime of the Ayatollahs has pillaged Iran, systematically robbing the people of their wealth, their dignity, and their God-given liberties. Iran is a nation where Christian evangelism is punishable by death. Political activists, protesters, college students are imprisoned and tortured. Where the government shuts down access to the internet to stymie political rivals on a whim. This is a place where there hasn't been a legitimate election since before the release of the first IBM computer. I refuse to accept that there are members in this body who are ignorant of these facts. American Iran's history is far too long and far too well known for those members to simply not know the brutality of the regime of the Ayatollahs. Shame on them. In a day and age where there are political operatives that openly long for gulags and political re-education, we have a grim reminder that the spirit of control and oppression is never far from our own shores or within our own borders, and even with our own politics. Again, I say, shame on them. In the words of my father, as he marched with other Iranian Americans in front of President Jimmy Carter's White House in Washington, D.C. in 1979, say no to Khomeini. Say no to Khomeini. I stand before you today as a member of the Georgia House of Representatives. And I say no to radical Islamic regimes. Say no to brutal Islamic enforcers like Soleimani. My family has lived through these atrocities. They lived through the fleeing of their homes to the unknown. They felt the impacts of chaining themselves to the fence outside of a foreign U.S. embassy, knowing that if they were to return home, they would be dead anyway, at the hand of these Ayatollahs. for those that would elevate these radical Islamists, these terrorists, these war criminals, and these thugs. Shame on you. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.